Joining me now is Senior Vice President for Policy and Programs with the Center for Security Policy, Fred Fleitz. Fred, great to have you back.
Good to be here, Liz. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Now, before we talk about the implications of North Korea testing a supposed hydrogen bomb, could you clarify the difference for us between a hydrogen bomb and an atomic bomb?
Well, they're both atomic bombs. What North Korea has been experimenting with to date has been a pure fission bomb, which uses either uranium or plutonium fuel. A hydrogen bomb uses that type of bomb as a primary explosion to detonate a secondary fusion explosion, which fuses deuterium and tritium, which yields an enormous amount of energy. And that amount of energy will consequently ignite fission in a blanket of uranium-238 that surrounds it. So the bomb that, the type of bombs North Korea has been playing around with to date is measured in kilotons. Hydrogen bombs are measured 1,000 times more, in megatons.
Now, there's been some skepticism about whether North Korea actually tested the hydrogen bomb, the second type, the more powerful type that you just described for us. Do you think that they truly did conduct a test of this more powerful type?
No, I don't think they tested a hydrogen bomb. This nation is notorious for making exaggerations about its technical capabilities. A hydrogen bomb is considerably beyond North Korea's technical capabilities. It may have tried to test something called a boosted fission bomb, which has a small fusion explosion in the middle of a fission bomb to increase the efficiency of the fission explosion. But this was not a hydrogen bomb.
Now, even if it wasn't a hydrogen bomb, does conducting this sort of test, does that help them further their nuclear program as a whole?
I mean, that's a good point. This is still bad news. Every test that North Korea conducts, every nuclear test, gets them closer to the day when they will have a deliverable miniaturized weapon that they can either put in the nose cone of a ballistic missile or use as an electromagnetic pulse device to possibly attack the American power grid or the power grid of Asia or other countries. It's a dangerous development.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the threat to the United States. Do you think that this poses any threat to the U.S., not even over here in the continental United States, but we have massive military bases in both South Korea and Japan, as you know, and North Korea is believed to have 3 types of operational ballistic missiles with enough range to reach both of those countries. Should U.S. be feeling a threat from that?
I mean, it's a definite threat. North Korea has an enormous missile arsenal of over 1,000 missiles. It's tested rockets. It's said were intended to put satellites into orbit. What were really tests of ICBMs that could strike the United States. And there's also the possibility that North Korea is collaborating with Iran. I'm very worried about that. So this could be a threat to America's allies in the region. It could be a threat to U.S. bases in the region, the U.S. homeland. And who knows what would happen if they're really collaborating in nuclear research with Iran.
Right, that could be a threat not just to the United States or to Asia, but to our allies in the Middle East. That could be catastrophic in that area. Now, in Asia, the Obama administration has been rebalancing U.S. forces to the Asia-Pacific region, partly in recognition of this threat of North Korea. But can you explain to us what this means, rebalancing? Does the U.S. expect an attack soon?
Well, the administration has recently used the term rebalancing. They've also used the term pivot, the pivot to Asia. Well, Liz, let me tell you, my friends in Asia have asked me, where's the pivot? Where are the U.S. troops? They think America is only focused on the Middle East, which is sort of amusing because there's such an absence of leadership by the United States in the Middle East. Our leadership in Asia has been even less. And I think that's partly what we see going on here. North Korea sees a power vacuum, and it sees a vulnerable president. And I think they're trying to press for an Iran-like nuclear deal before Mr. Obama leaves office.
Now, what do you make of the reports that North Korea has some long-range missiles that could potentially reach Alaska, Hawaii, or Guam? Do you think there's truth in that?
I think that's exactly the case. I believe these tests of missiles to place satellites into orbit were tests of ICBMs. That's what most arms control experts believe. That's why North Korea has been sanctioned every time it has conducted one of these tests. That's part of North Korea's objective.
Now, you say you think North Korea is pursuing a nuclear deal like the United States made with Iran, and I guess that's not out of the realm of possibility given Obama and Secretary of State Kerry's terrible negotiations with Iran. Do you expect the U.S. to start negotiating with North Korea?
Well, the North Koreans know that Mr. Obama came to office wanting nuclear deals with both Iran and North Korea. The administration has not been pursuing this the way they have been pursuing it with Iran, but Obama administration officials did indicate to North Korea last fall that they were open to resuming talks. We'll have to see how the administration responds to this test. I think there's a temptation to start nuclear talks because I think the president wants another legacy nuclear deal. That deal would be with North Korea.
And that would be a terrible legacy, a dangerous legacy. Now, presidential candidate Donald Trump said that the North Korean leader is, quote, sick enough to use a hydrogen bomb. What do you expect a Republican, a potential Republican president to do differently in the handling of the situation with North Korea?
Both in the Middle East and Asia, the Republican candidates have to talk about the absence of leadership under Mr. Obama and how they will fill that absence. We're leading from behind, and we see disarray and instability between Saudi Arabia and Iran, concerning China in the South China Sea, in Syria, Iraq, and concerning North Korea. We have to have an assertive U.S. foreign policy and a leader who will lead and not try to lead from behind. And I think that all the Republican presidential candidates get this, but they simply they have to keep pushing this theme home so the American people realize how bad this problem is and why they will solve it.
Okay, let's switch topics for a moment and talk about the report from the Wall Street Journal that the White House used the NSA to spy on Congress regarding the Iran nuclear deal. The Wall Street Journal reports that the NSA intercepted communications between U.S. lawmakers and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and then provided those interceptions to the White House. If this is true, this could be huge. What do you make of this report?
This is really an outrage. Now, there are some Americans who are upset that we're spying on Israel and the Israeli prime minister. I was in the intelligence community for a long time. This is what nation states do. We spy on the Israelis, they spy on us. I'm not upset about that. What I am upset about is that while we monitored Netanyahu's communications and meetings, we swept up the private discussions of members of Congress and American Jewish organizations. And according to Congressman Pete Hoekstra, the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, the Obama administration used this information gathered by NSA to target Democrats who were not supporting the Iran deal to change their mind. Liz, this is not supposed to happen in this country. The executive branch cannot use one of the most powerful intelligence agencies on earth to spy on another branch. That's what goes on in banana republics. Congress has to thoroughly investigate this.
Yeah, what kind of repercussions should the executive branch feel for this? There's an unnamed source from the White House that says that they didn't tell the NSA to do it and they didn't say not to do it, kind of that they just accepted the intercepted communications. What do you think should happen?
Yeah, that comment really got me. What they were really saying to NSA is, well, we're not telling you to collect this information, but if you do collect it, we sure would be grateful. NSA works for the White House. The White House knew it was not supposed to have this information. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much Congress can do to hold the White House accountable. I don't think anyone's going to resign. I don't think legislation will pass punishing the White House. But again, the Republican presidential candidates have to focus on this as an absence of leadership. This intelligence shouldn't have been delivered to the White House. The White House should have sent it back. That's what an ethical administration should do. And I think the ethically challenge Hillary Clinton, if she's president, that's never going to happen.
Right, and it's certainly something that we should be talking more about to expose this abuse because spying on members of our own Congress, on our representatives, is not an appropriate use of power for the NSA or the White House. Fred, we're out of time for today. I appreciate you coming on the program. I'll talk to you again soon.